Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. On today's show, we are joined by Paul Ascough, author of the UFO The Real Story, a fascinating exploration of UFOs phenomena, the paranormal, and deeper mysteries of the human perception. Paul, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Bob, and it's a pleasure to be here. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you. Let's start with your background. You have spent over 50 years in the UFO research and served in both the British Army and the medical field. How did your experiences shape your interest in the unexplained?
For me, it started, career-wise, I've always been medical. Nursing, then in the army, and then a paramedic until my retirement. But my actual, anybody that's listened to me before, my introduction to, UFOs and the paranormal was something I wasn't interested in at all, didn't figure in my life until I was 11 years old. And I was with my brother my brother, who was 18 months older than me, and my father. And the routine was, we took our dogs for a walk, neighbours' dogs for a walk, put them away, said goodnight to mum and dad, went to bed. And that was the routine every night. And we put the dogs away. Dad was in the front garden, our house faced east. And as we went out to say goodnight to Dad, he came and sat down, and my brother and I sat at either side of him, and we were just looking at the night sky. Now we're talking a long time ago. I was 11 years old, so 1968, and the sky from directly in front of us, looking north, was completely covered in thick cloud, but it finished abruptly at this bank of cloud that went away from us in the distance. But the sky to the south and from the east looking to the south was completely clear. So my father was pointing out it was just getting dusk, getting dark, and the better constellations, the larger magnitude stars were just coming out. So he's pointing to them, and the three of us were actually looking at the sky. And as we did that, two UFOs came zooming out of this bank of cloud and then just stopped dead. One was slightly to one side and slightly behind the other. No sound whatsoever, no apparent rotation, no lights, and there was nothing apparently joining them together. They stayed the same relative distance apart, and they just stopped. Boom, they were still, not moving at all. As they stood still, you could see the light from them actually shining on this edge of this bank of cloud, the light reflecting off the cloud. And they were still for a few seconds. And as that happened, I got quite clearly what I describe as a friendly masculine voice in my head that said, oops, we hadn't meant to have been seen. And then nothing. And immediately that happened. They started again, no acceleration, but where they'd come out heading due south, they stood still, and then they moved off at 90 degrees going due east, moving away from us. And as they moved, it was like an atmosphere surrounding them that was sloughing off, for want of a better term, at the back. So you could get this really small teardrop shape as they moved away from us.
Right.
And they stayed the same relative position, no sound again, no nothing, and they just stayed the same position and moved away until they faded away in the distance. And you can imagine the three of us were sat there gobsmacked. And my father was the first to speak, and he just said, there's nothing we've got that can do that. And for me, it was so odd, so bizarre, and for want of a better term, so obviously alien.
Yeah.
That was the hook that got me. It's like, why don't I know about it? Why isn't it on the news? Why isn't it in the papers? Why aren't other people reporting it? You know, because it was obviously so bright in the sky. Anybody looking up could have seen it. And it was like, why don't I know about this? You know, and that was like, I've got to know now. But again, I wanted to know the nuts and bolts. How could something actually move like that and stop like that? And how could it look like that, you know? So it was like from the physics, the nuts and bolts that I wanted to know. And that was the hook that got me into it.
What inspired you to write the book now, and What do you mean by the real story?
Well, I mean, that was in those days when I started. Uh, there were very few authors that wrote books on UFOs. Those that did, Jenny Randall's had just started writing. Uh, the other books were people like Donald Kehoe, Flying Saucers from Outer Space. And so after that, for me to actually get out and find books, it was getting on your local bus service and going out and doing that. But my father bought the first one, and that was Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods had just come out, and my father bought that. But reading other people's stories, and it happens even now, that people tend to go to what they know or where they live. So you'll get stories of like Rendlesham Forest or, the Falkirk Triangle, anywhere, the Welsh Triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, the Alaskan Triangle, they're always triangular, Skinwalker Ranch. Or you'll get somebody that will just write about triangular UFOs, or they'll write about Bigfoot, or they'll write about poltergeists. So you get all these different parts, which I call like different segments of the pie, different pieces of the pizza, if you like. And what happened with my experiences, I sort of began to see that they were all somehow connected. And because they were all connected, I wanted to do that and to open people's eyes and say, look, it's not just happening at Skinwalker Ranch, or it's not just to do with Bigfoot or cryptids or Dogman, or not just to do with, UFOs. They're all connected. There's some sort of thing that connects all these together. So that was where I came from. And then what I did with the book was try to put my experiences, and I've just done it in a chronological order as they've happened. And obviously, as you get towards retirement, you have more time in your life and you're not thinking of earning a crust for your family and all the rest of it. So because you have a slightly more time, I had time to write things down and gradually amassed what was the text for the book. So it was just putting it in some sort of chronological order and then making it so that people could understand how all these pieces of the pie, it's all the same pie. We just need to look at the bigger picture rather than your little segment of it.
Can you just look at a minute at your microphone? It's crackling a lot.
I'm just on a...
Just see if it's plugged in. All right.
Yeah, I've no problems anywhere, Bob. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. We'll carry on. You mentioned the bigger picture with all the complexities. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah. And again, as I said, where people look at pieces of the pie. So what I tended to do now, if you go back historically, looking at how it was always used to be flying saucers from outer space. And then things that people still do things, I mean, John Keel with the Mothman, Paul with the Truth Proof series, everybody doing different things, Malcolm with Bonnie Bridge and all the rest of it. So you still got all these different, lots and lots of information for some brilliant authors. Philip Kinsella, another one, some brilliant ideas. And it gets me to thinking that as we move forward and as ufology has changed, I think we're getting more of a handle on it and we're getting more ideas of how it's all part of a bigger picture. And where originally, as I said, it was how can they come from millions of light years away, I now believe it's interdimensional. And it's not, if you look at, I'll just digress slightly, Bob, if I may.
Yeah, that's fine.
People like, unfortunately no longer with us, Bud Hopkins and Dolores Cannon, but also Kath Marden more recently. But these people, John Mackey was another one, that did hundreds, thousands of interviews with abductees and we've got all this huge volume of text, of information. And I was very fortunate to have lunch with Bud Hopkins when he came over to speak for Bufora once down in Sheffield. And I was a member of Bufora for quite a few years, and I was helping them out, making sure that the speakers got to where they should be.
Oh, yeah.
So it just worked out wonderful for me that Bud Hopkins and I had lunch at the same time. So, but he said a very telling phrase, and he said, Paul, what got it for me was, he said, I got into it. He says, I just wanted to help people. He says, I'm an artist. He says, yes, I've seen my own UFO. I've had my own sighting. But he said, I was wanting to do something for other people. He says, that's how I got into hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and then regressive hypnotherapy. He says, but you could go anywhere in the world. He says, and I'm getting these calls to interview people and use regressive hypnotherapy on them. He said, you could have a wealthy businessman in America, a poor Colombian farmer, just a normal bus driver from Madrid in Spain. He said, but they all tell me exactly the same story. He says, and when these people that will never ever meet each other, don't know about each other, and the only contact through any of them is me, but they're telling me exactly the same story. He says, and it just blew my mind. There's obviously something more to it. There is something going on. And that's what made him pursue it. And for me, that was a good thing, where on a lot of the things which all of these have said, and the abductees, is the craft are moved by thought. The craft are part of them. It's a whole living mechanism. They become part of an organism, if you want. And this is the thing again, where it makes me laugh when you get these modern documentaries, and they always wheel these people out and say, well, that's impossible. The G-forces would have killed us, and they must have been mistaken.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, but it's because they're not using our physics. And it was the same, and you still get it now. I can't remember his name now, but more recently there was a documentary on, and you'd got this physicist, a scientist on television, trying to mimic the Tic Tac UFO film that they got. And that was taken on the infrared gun camera. But for the documentary, there's always this tongue-in-cheek ridicule bit. And this is the same. What he's trying to do, he's not taking into account several pilots, trained observers, are seeing these things within the visible spectrum. They're seeing it with their naked eyes. Then they're recording it on the infrared gun cameras of the F-18 Super Hornet. Then they're also being seen by the carrier fleet underneath and recorded on their radar. So it's not just that thing that's happening. Hundreds of people and different mediums that they're being recorded in. Now, one other thing that went on, when the Pentagon released Tic Tac, Gimbal and Go Fast, the three videos that they released to the public, if you like.
Yeah.
When you read the report, one of the other things was there was actually 140 some different reports and sightings, but 80 of these, 80, had, again, there was documented and statements taken by trained observers, the pilots. They were recorded on the infrared cameras on the aircraft, and they were recorded by radar. So there was another 77 instances which they said they're not going to release because it's not in the national interest. It all comes under, oh, it's part of the government, you don't need to know. So there's this part of it that's covered up, and then they wheel these people out that try to mimic as this guy was doing on this occasion. I'm sure some people will have seen. They were trying to mimic it just so that he could find some sort of alternate explanation of the Tic Tac video. But it didn't take into account all the other corroborative evidence and things that were happening around it. And you find this so many times. I mean, Philip Klass was, I hate to say, thank goodness he's no longer with us, but vehemently denying the Rendlesham Forest entrance, and it was just like the Orford Nest Lighthouse. That's it. End of story.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, but when you
Laughable.
actually, yeah, ridiculous. But when you take into account everything else that happened, it's like how. One of the things that I always say is that I believe with the contact with me and doing investigations with Bufora and the other things as well, that people can now freely just get books from contactees. Calvin Parker was another one where I believe ET can absolutely contact us. How everybody has a fingerprint. Everybody's fingerprints are different. Everybody's iris are different, but everybody's energy is different. And it all comes down to that base energy. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. Like Tesla said, Einstein said the same. And the sooner we understand this and take that on board, that if we can, you see, this isn't, I keep going off at a tangent, but Skinwalker Ranch, and I've watched all of those, but the thing is, they can only measure what is within our normal electromagnetic spectrum. They can't measure the dark energy and the dark matter.
No.
And that is the next breakthrough that we need, because there could be 95% of the energy in the universe and the matter in the universe that we don't even have the technology to map it, to read it, to do anything with it. We don't know. So we're only looking at a tiny amount of the ordinary matter, with the long radio waves at one end coming up through our visible spectrum to the higher energy and shorter gamma rays at the other end. That's the bit that our science knows about. But there's all this other energy that, as far as the common man's, as far as we're concerned, we don't have the technology to even read it or measure it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, go on, but that's where ET, I believe, are masters of it. They know it all.
Just before we move on, do you think we are chosen to see things?
Now, I think chosen might be a wrong word, Bob, but I know what you're getting at. I think because we all have a specific energy, you now sat in front of your computer, me sat in front of this here, everybody has their own energy and it reacts to everything around it. So everybody is unique, everybody. Malcolm Robinson will tell you, as a spiritualist, it's the aura of the individual, the energy of the individual.
Yeah.
And everybody's unique, everybody's different. And I do absolutely believe that ET can understand that, can record it, can do whatever they want with it, they can manipulate it. And that is why some people see things and some people don't. And it's because we're all at different energies and different levels. And ET can pick up on that. So moving on from that slightly, CE5, CE5?
Yeah.
Where people meditate, and I do believe that works, but there's a proviso. I also think that there are people that naturally are in tune with certain parameters, if you like, of a different energy. But it also depends where you are, as in the case of Bempton Cliffs.
Correct. Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Places around. I think there's pockets of places like that around the world where energy seems to be working well in some places.
And it's wonderful. I love it. It makes me laugh, does Skinwalker Ranch, because they're just going to start something off and they're just going to, then it all goes deaf or it all goes to pot, and it's like, and you can tell it's going to happen, and it's like, yeah, because they can control it. It's just an energy to them. They can tweak it. They can do whatever. And moving on from that, that's the same with the abductees, why you get so many different memory blocks, because again, you think about it, you thinking, every thought that you have is an energy. So because it's an energy, they can control it. I was reading an abduction, I'm trying to think whose book it was. Anyway, what is Steve? Anyway, but he said, I was being transported by greys He says, but one of them was a cousin that he knew, that he was rather fond of, nice young girl. He said, but as I moved closer to her, this young normal girl changed into an alien grey. And he says it was that thought that they were putting over to make it more familiar, to make it more acceptable, to make it more
Yeah.
comfortable for him, you know.
I can
So,
imagine that as well. Yeah. Um, you include many your own sightings in the book. Which experiences stands out as the most compelling or transformative?
well, obviously the first one, which I told you at the beginning, and that's the one that was the hook that got me into it. But I've had quite dozens of sightings. We had a good one. I like to have a sighting where other people can see things. Obviously, then you know it's just not you.
Yeah.
Uh, and there was an instance in September 2021, which I included in the book, where there were 13 of us saw it. And we'd been out. I live in a small cul-de-sac, at the top of a small cul-de-sac. So occasionally, when it's a nice summer's day and you get blue skies, the children are out playing, and then everybody goes in and you have tea, you have dinner, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this had been one of those afternoons. And then as we were going in, as I'm turning round to go into my house, this bright blue sky and there's this brilliant white dot of light, just like a really, really bright star. A superb magnitude on it. And it was like, whoa. And immediately I thought, that shouldn't be there. That's odd. You know, why is that there? So I shouted for Eve, shouted for my wife, quick, bring the camera, bring me binoculars. We came out and I had it sort of between on the gable end. The first picture that I took actually had the gable end of the roof of my neighbour's house in it. So they came, I shouted them, they came over, neighbours at the other side came over. And we finished up, we had this in sight for over 30 minutes. And it moved really, really slowly from where I was. It was almost due east, maybe slightly south of east, and then
Yeah.
it moved over towards us. And it was just to the naked eye, was just a really brilliant white dot of light. But when you looked at it through the binoculars, it was a donut shape. Imagine a ring donut, but on its end. So the ring was like that.
Oh yeah.
So I ran in and got me some really big binoculars that I use for night sky. 25 by 75, massive things, Celestron, but they're really heavy. So where we were outside the front of our home, we had some reclining chairs that we use in the garden. Got those out, and there's me and my neighbour David, laid on our backs nearly, with these big binoculars, take it in turns. And it was like you could see this ring-shaped donut, but there was all these other small dots of light. And if you can imagine, you know, when you've been looking at a bright light or something, and then you get that opposite sort of coordinating colour that you can see, they were like those flashes, like almost sort of not luminous, but brilliant sort of oranges and greens and yellows and purples, like iridescent colours almost in the background to these. And they were flickering about around this, and some of them were moving really fast. By this time, we've had them in sight for getting on for 30 minutes, and I'm thinking, this is really weird. If it's staying there, I'll get my telescope and see if I can see it better on the telescope. Because the camera, I've got a good digital camera, and it got a good zoom on it, but it wouldn't focus. And I'm sure that many people find this, trying to focus on something. And one of the things that I say is you'll never focus on it because you only see the portion of it that is within our visible spectrum, and a lot of it isn't in our visible spectrum. And that's why you just get a fuzzy blob of light, if you like. But anyway, I ran in to get the telescope, still there. So by this time, there was just myself, my wife, and one of my neighbours. Other neighbours had come out. There were 13 saw this all together.
Oh my God.
And as I'm setting the telescope up, David suddenly shouted, and it had just zoomed off to the north and disappeared, and that was it. So, but I included that sighting in the book. That were amazing. And talking of sightings, this is our 14th trip. Sorry, people. Yes, I should be in therapy, but never mind. This is our 14th trip to Cyprus, where we are now. And I'm like a lot of people, you're always looking at the sky, and especially here because the sky is clear. We don't have any chemtrails, beautiful blue skies.
Yeah.
You can see the stars if you can get away from the light of the hotels. Brilliant. Anyway, I've been actually from here, a lot of flights take off between sort of 4:30, 5:30 in the early evening, coming back to Europe, coming back to London, coming back to Leeds, Bradford, coming back to Manchester, and a lot of them take off around that time. So I'd actually just been for a swim in the sea. You can't do that this time of year, can you?
Yeah, no.
So I was actually sat on the balcony watching the aeroplanes go, and I've got flight tracker on my phone, and I was watching them, just being nosy, really,
Yeah.
seeing where they were going and all the rest of it. And then in the distance, looking not quite south, but nearly south, you could see the normal air corridor as it goes past Cyprus over the Mediterranean, and you could see the contrails of aircraft going in different directions. But that was only 10 or 15 degrees. As aircraft take off from the airport near us in Paphos, they move to the west and go south, and they sort of move along towards this air corridor, and they all use the same air corridor. But from my vantage point, they gradually get lower and lower in the sky as they're getting further and further away.
Right.
So I'm just sat there on the balcony watching this, thinking about going for a shower and getting changed for the evening meal. And as I'm sat there, above one of the palm trees, quite high up, 55, 60 degrees maybe from the horizon, suddenly is a really bright point of light. And I went, whoa, you know. So initially the sun hadn't been set for very long, and it was sort of dusk. And I'm thinking, well, is it the reflection or still off the sun, off an aircraft? Because often you can still get that. But it was completely stationary. That's one thing that got me. It wasn't moving. And I've got no wind, so there's a couple of
No.
palm trees beneath, so you could see it's not moving. So I'm looking at it and I thought, oh, I'm going to quick turn the flight tracker off, get the camera out, took a picture, still not moving, so I tried zooming in, took another picture. By now it had been in sight maybe 30 seconds. As I'm trying to sort it out, because I've got a night mode filter on the mobile.
Oh, yeah.
As I'm trying to do this to see if I can get any better resolution on it, it just sort of winked out and that was it, gone. And it never appeared again. I've looked for it again the last few nights, nothing. But it was, as I zoomed in, it was like, to the naked eye, it just looked like a sphere, like a ball, a brilliant white ball. When I zoomed in with the camera, it looked more diamond shaped. Sort of like that shape.
Yeah.
And one of the comments that I got was, it looks like a spinning top. Well, I actually thought that, but I thought I didn't want to say that because I don't want to put words into people's mouths.
Right.
And that was 2 nights ago, whenever it was, Thursday, Wednesday, so it would have been Tuesday or Wednesday night. I put it on my It's the Real Story Facebook page with the photograph showing the comparisons of the aircraft in the distance. But yeah, very intriguing because I've been here and I do look, and we've never seen anything all the times we've been here. And then there you go. You can't plan for these things. They just
You can't plan for them. Yeah. Do you believe that some sightings are more about internal consciousness than external craft?
Well, you see, now this is another thing where, again, touching on this is the way I think ufology is going. Where initially it was the nuts and bolts and flying saucers from outer space, I think we're now moving more into an interdimensional and spiritual way of looking at things, because I believe that's how they work. And now, one of the things and it's just something, in my opinion, and I might be totally wrong, but in my opinion, all these ET have, if you like, a universal law where they're not allowed to interfere with us, to our knowledge. Now, there's a big proviso. They're not allowed to just come and land on the White House lawn and say, we're taking so many of you and we're doing this and we're doing gene therapy or whatever. It's got to be done on the quiet. They've got to not, or be seen to not interfere with our lives. We still have to have this free choice, if you like. And I think it's a universal law where they're not allowed. We have to hang ourselves with our own rope, if you like. And they're not allowed to step in. So I don't know. I mean, but I think as time goes on within ufology, you've got this. If you think about it, the media have always dramatised and sensationalised everything, and it was always somebody had been attacked, or it was always with a negative context. Are we going to be taken over by aliens? Are they going to bomb us all and wipe out the world? And it's always warlike. It's always on a bad footing. And then, thankfully, there's people like Preston Dennett come along, who's written a book, and a lot of others have joined him as well, on the good side of things and how people have had a good outcome. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't frightening at the time, because I'm sure, as much as I'm supposed to know, allegedly, it would still be frightening. And I think that's something that people get when they experience, and it can be whether it's ghosts, whether it's anything on the paranormal side, cryptids, poltergeist, ghosts, and again, dogman, or something like UFOs, alien grey abduction, or anything like that. And I think our soul, our higher self, realizes that we've been taken out of our ordinary matter and into this dark energy or dark matter where we're not supposed to be. So you get that innate thing where your soul knows you're not where you're supposed to be. So I think it's sort of a survival mechanism that's telling you to back off. You shouldn't be, like people go into these areas and straight away they can't hear any noise. They go into this bubble. Like Skinwalker Ranch are now calling it the bubble. And that's exactly what it's like. Now, I don't believe these are static by any stretch of the imagination. And I think they move with the Earth's magnetic field and what's happening that affects the magnetic fields that affect things around them. But it's still the same effect every time, where once you pierce that bubble, suddenly, how many times do we hear there was complete silence? And it's because you're not within our normal auditory range, so we can't hear it. And it's the same where people get afraid, and I'm talking really petrified in a lot of cases, and it's because the higher self knows and can pick up that energy that it's not where they're supposed to be. So naturally, you will back off and go, whoa,
It's
so I
right,
think,
that. Well,
yeah,
you do.
yeah. And I think there's a lot of things on that, and that's true of people that have found, come across Bigfoot, and they said they were petrified. You even get like the Travis Walton, where Mike and they went back, and he said, you get a lot of different people, and they don't like going back to the scene of where it happened, because the body again is picking up that energy, and it's because it is such a strong and a negative energy from, forgive me, but where we are now is a low frequency, is a low energy. So to pick that up, that's a much higher energy, your body's realised that from a physical point of view, this is not where we should be. And that's why people get afraid. But also something else, moving along the same lines from that, that's why we don't hear things, that's why we get the silence, that's why people are afraid. That's why also that you don't get it, how can I say it? People that don't like to go back to relive the same sort of thing, but also you get the other side of the coin, if you like, where when people are experiencing this, because it's so bizarre and so odd, they don't want to be reminded of it. And people always try to rationalize things, like oh, it was just a light in the sky, or it was just an owl, or it was just whatever. And it's a way of being able to put a line under things and carry on normal life. Yeah, to normal life.
That's true. Yeah. What's your thoughts on theories like time travel or consciousness-based manifestations?
Consciousness and manifestation. Well, again, consciousness, I believe, is something that's coming more to the fore within ufology, because I think people are getting or becoming more aware that it is an energy thing. Because if you get back down to the basic level, everything is energy. So it's got to be affected. One thing will affect something else. So manifestation is something I think can happen, but the circumstances have got to be right. And again, if manifestation wasn't true, taking it on a slightly different slant, how would you get these people the power of positive thinking and things like that, where that obviously does work, and it's just a way of changing somebody's mindset. And again, it's changing your vibration, changing your frequency, because every thought that you have is an energy. That's why they call it spelling. It's a spell. That's why you should never say, God, my back's killing me today, I'm aching or whatever. And what you're doing is you're feeding the negative side of the energy.
Yeah.
So we should say, yeah, okay, I'll get over it. I'm getting better. I'm still getting up. I'm still having a good day. I'm still here. I'm enjoying myself, and trying to put a positive spin on things, because it does have an effect. I mean, I know I'm not going to say any names, but how many people do we know, or do anybody listening know, that is negative? And then they always say, why does it always happen to me? And
that's true.
Yeah. So yes, I do think your attitude and things like that do make a difference. Manifestation is something that I think is, again, being in the right place at the right time, because what we get, because we're such a low frequency, unfortunately for us, when you open yourself up to be aware of the frequencies above and below you, it's easy for a lower frequency to find a shortcut, if you like.
Yeah.
Now, just going on from that, though, I'm not going off at a tangent slightly. Don't think I'm not. I'm trying to escape. But that is what happens with. We'll touch on Bempton, if you like. Orbs, Dogman, cryptids, skinwalkers, all use these geographical bubbles that are all over the place. But if you think about it from, I'm going to say, ET's point of view, an alien point of view, so for somebody such as them, with such a high intellect that they have, that can understand the frequencies, understand all the different levels, the whole of the dark energy and dark matter, as well as our ordinary matter, for people that can understand all that, it becomes, these portals become a portal for them as a shortcut, because it's an energy short circuit. So they move from one place to another. So that's why you get cryptids, dogmen, skinwalkers, poltergeists, and UFOs. And the UFOs are just using the energy portal to move through, because for them it's just a shortcut from A to B. Where people don't understand that the other things like skinwalker and poltergeist are lower energies that are just using that energy and that bubble to make themselves known to us.
Yeah. It's true. The topic of disclosure is hotter than ever, What's your take on recent government releases and whistleblowers' testimonies?
Well, again, disclosure, disclosure per se. The government have always, historically, I think, aggressively covered things up for so long. And you see, we all hoped when the Pentagon started releasing those other files, the Go Fast and Gimbal and Tic Tac UFO, and we thought, oh, this is a good thing. More things are going to start coming out, but they haven't. And I think this is something where, yes, what can I say? They just sort of leading us along by the nose, I think. And it's the same with the ATIP, Louis Elizondo, and all the other things. We keep getting these little carrots where we think something's going to be coming out, and then nothing happens of it. And
True.
it's because it's covered up all the time. One of the things that I used on my the talk that I gave for the Outer Limits magazine was the Jerusalem UFO footage. Now, that is becoming more and more difficult to find on YouTube. But when it first happened, this was, I think it was July 2011, the Jerusalem UFO. And it was amazing because there were 6 different videos on. There was also camera shots of the Jerusalem weather station that took pictures every so often. And then you'd got Jamie Mousson from Mexico, who went over, the journalist, an investigator. And he actually said, he went, you see, I'm not totally in agreement with everything that he does, but
No.
he actually went over there and interviewed quite a lot, I mean, dozens and dozens of people that had seen it. And in the end, he'd got all these witness statements from different people around the area, plus all the different UFO videos. And then what happened was, again, the powers that be, whoever, somebody made just a CGI, so it was just an amorphous blob, if you like, on the thing. And that, amazingly, was the one that was released to all the news channels when it went to CNN and all, and they all used that one. They didn't use any of the other ones. They must have been told, you must use this video. And then afterwards it was, well, there was a group of students who were filmmakers and they were doing that, and it was them that did it and all the rest of it. Where the reality was, it was one of the best examples that we've had in modern times, but it was made, I mean, even now if you Google it or whatever, and it comes up, Jerusalem UFO hoax. And
Yeah.
it comes up, hoax, yeah. And it wasn't. But this is the way, aggressively, that they just, you see, for the people that weren't there, for you and I, that weren't there or weren't interested, it's then a plausible deniability, if you like. Yeah, that looks about right, so yeah, we'll just cross it off.
Paul, you know, when we talk about how should the government handle the truth about UFOs then?
Well, I think it's, in some ways, I think we're getting this drip feed now, Bob, of how things come. I mean, you go back just 50 years, when we were kids, not many people knew about UFOs.
No.
And we didn't have the internet. I mean, now we can see something like I did a couple of days ago, saw that light in the sky, put my account of it on, and the pictures of it on. That could never have happened 50 years ago, so it was easy to cover up. Where more recently, you can't do that now, because as in the case 2 days ago for me, I can photograph it, put some sort of corroborative evidence on it,
Yeah.
and put it out for the world to look at. And they can't deny it, you see. Or they can say, oh, yeah, well, they were, I mean, well, RAF Akrotiri is only 30 miles in the opposite direction. So they could say something, but the thing was, from my point of view, it didn't look at any time like an aircraft.
Is she all right?
Yeah. That's just my good lady trying to pick something up off the floor.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So you get this deniability all the time. And I think we've got this drip feed now where things like the films, I know I use it like Paul, for want of a better one, where everybody now knows what an alien grey is. So you're getting this and more, I mean, how many documentaries are there now on UFOs? How many times on even Sky Television have got channels on Blaze that show cryptids, ghosts, paranormal, poltergeists, UFOs, one after the other after the other. So there's a lot more information out there. And I think it's sort of educating the public and getting them used to the idea that we're not alone through the back door, if you like. So where 50 years ago you'd have said, what? Now you say, oh yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What do you think the next decade holds for UFO research?
I think we're going to get this spiritual development now. And this is just my idea, just my thought on it. But it seems to be moving into this, not so much, still extraterrestrial, but I think we're becoming more aware of this interdimensional side of things. And with the interdimensional side of things, people are being made more aware of the energy and the good side rather than the bad side of things. So I think we're getting this refining now where it was always we're going to get killed by invaders from Mars and all the rest of it, and they're going to take over the world. I think that's now where, dare I say, happening in America now, where the baddies are being brought to task. And I think it's happening on a worldwide thing where you're getting this, people are being made more aware of the evil and the bad things that have been happening around us. And because of modern technology, they can't cover it up all the time like they've always wanted to. And I would like to hope, I'm touching one, but I would like to hope and think that we are moving in a better direction, and it's something that will benefit us all because it will bring more understanding and more, bring people more together, if you know what I mean.
Oh, God, yeah. How can readers use the insight from your book to better understanding their own experiences of the world around them?
Yeah, well, that is what I'm trying to do. Instead of just, as I said, in eating just one piece of the pizza, I've tried to sort of make people aware of the other things that are happening around them and that it is all connected. And I think once people sort of can take to think outside the box and put all these things together, and it may give people, just jog the memory and say, oh, well, that's why that happened. And that's why that happened. And that explains something else. Now, there's no way that I'm an expert. I don't believe this because we've so much that we don't know that is on the dark energy and dark matter side of things that we may be aware of, but we can't measure it, we can't photograph it, we can't write it down, we can't look at it. But I think it'll make people aware of why things happen, how they do, and why we experience what we do. So by doing that, that is what I hoped with the book, by giving different examples, it just helps people think. And my idea was to try and give the bigger picture and give something for everybody that somebody can just say, oh yeah, that happened to me, and just recognise that that might be, relevant to them and their lives and help to explain something that happened and help them to move on.
Before we wrap up as well, what's the most challenging part of writing UFO, the real story?
The most challenging part, I think, to be honest, the most challenging part was what I did was, because of my experiences, I just put things down on a chronological thing, the different things that happen, different experiences. And by moving it into a chronological order, it helped me to put things together. Now, for me, it was just making it more readable and understandable for other people, because everybody's different and everybody experiences things differently. And what didn't phase me might phase somebody else. But the book can be on the other foot, where something might freak me out, but not them, you know. So it's swings and roundabouts. And so for me, as I got older, it was a way of being, dare I say, more mature about things and more understanding. And I think understanding and maturity is a great thing, but also it gives you more time to write things down in some sort of coherent language that other people can understand as well. So that for me, the biggest challenge was putting it in a sort of a way that people could read it. Now, I'm not making any excuses that at times it could be quite disjointed or whatever, but that's because I was trying to get over the different, cover different bases, if you like. So,
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. Yeah, because some people will read the book, and because people are getting more into UFOs now, because there's more sightings around the world now than ever.
yeah, absolutely. When,
And I think one people wanted to know where do they come from? Why do they come here? Do
they've
they
been here
interfere?
time.
Do they interfere with war?
You see, this is the thing, and again, because of I think a lot of this stems from the Second World War, and because we just had the Second World War, and it's from that everything was, we're going to be attacked by a foreign invader that we don't know and can't do anything about. Where the reality was, they've been here for thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, if you like. And so, even looking back, medieval times, all different, these references to UFOs or flying chariots back hundreds and hundreds of years. And we, even in modern, well, relatively modern paintings, I'll say, from 1300, 1500 onwards, there are depictions of chariots in the sky, if you like, for want of a better term. So it's something that we've had throughout history, and I think it's only from, I think it was with the Battle of Los Angeles in 1952 in America, and from then on they really had this aggressive uh, putting it down and ridiculing it and silencing people. And you have to think, even with places like Roswell and things like that, where witnesses were told, you will be quiet and you won't say anything else and you will keep it secret. The
Yeah,
war had just finished. So a lot of people, it was for, oh, I will keep the secret because it's for my country, you know. And that was the general attitude. So that was just a culture at the time and what people, and it wouldn't happen had it started now, it would be a different kettle of fish altogether. But
yeah,
that was,
because a lot of them people, uh, what didn't want to say out, they're in a lot of them in the 80s and 90s now, and they've come out now and said, before I die, I want to tell you this story
yeah,
now.
yeah, they do. Yeah. And it's funny, the more you talk about this thing, I volunteer with a local group. We're going to be on calendar next Wednesday night, actually.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
but it's just calendar doing a thing where they feature, they've got a slot on a Wednesday evening of different groups. But that group I'm with there, they found out that I was into UFOs and the paranormal. And then afterwards, I was working one of the guys sort of on the quiet. He didn't do it in front of everybody else. But when he got me on his own and we were doing a job, he said, do you know, I saw something. And it's like, I'm not going to let anybody
Ah,
else know, but you know.
yeah, I can understand that. Um, Before we get back in, are you working on a follow up or any other new projects?
At the moment, that's a no. However, I'm going to say no in small, not in capitals, because so many people have said, would you expand on your original book and would you move it forward and do whatever? I mean, that's why I initially did the slightly expanded and updated version. And the for me, there's so many other things since then that my understanding's got better. And I think it's something where, as all ufologists and all people that are studying this sort of thing, and it's same with Paul with the Truth Proof series, you move on and you get other ideas and there's other things happen that help you to move on, you know.
It's true what you're saying about that, because you might have wrote something in the book, thought, I could have worded that better now. I've learnt a little bit more. I could have said that and that, and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's true, it happens in life, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's I'm not going to say youth is wasted on the young, but as you do get older, you get, I believe, you have a more insightful way of looking at things, and you tend to take a step back and look at the bigger picture rather than have a quick reaction to things. And it's the same with ufology and the paranormal, where you may just have reacted to something. Now you've got time to sit back and think about it and look at it logically and sort of dissect it and come to better conclusions.
Would you like to go to Skinwalker Ranch?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It makes me laugh because when you can see what they're doing, I'm not knocking it whatsoever, because I think the money that they're throwing at it and the scientific things that they're throwing at it is making more, shedding more light on for me, everything that I've thought of, they're now being able to show, but they're only being able to show it within our ordinary matter, because they, even with all the money they've got and the technology and the brains that they've got, far better brains than I have, but they still can't go beyond our ordinary matter, and that's the crux of the problem. And there's many a time my wife laughs at me when I'm shouting at the television, well, this is going to happen. And then they're saying, yeah, but look at that. And I say, well, obviously, because that's where it is within the portal. That's not in our dimension, you know. And it's like,
yeah, and it's quite easy on a program like that, because there's a multi-billionaire. They can get anything they want.
yeah.
Any technology they want, he gets it for them.
Yeah.
To use.
I'd love to talk like this to them, Bob, and say, right, this is what you're doing wrong. This is why. No, not what they're doing wrong. That's the wrong thing to say. This is why this is happening. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Where can listeners find your book and any follow-up books or whatever?
Right. Well, at the moment, my book was published. It was available on Amazon with Flying Disc Press. Now, I do believe it will be coming back out again, because unfortunately Philip has been ill.
Yeah, that's
He's
right.
had to curtail some of his publishing, so it's been temporarily taken off being able to be published. However, if anybody wants to write to me, I do have copies of the book, which I will sign quite willingly, and if they just pay for the book and the postage, I do have them. So they could get me on email, which is paul.ascough, ASCOUGH, 57 at gmail.com. paul.ascough57 at gmail.com. Unless they're good in French, it's available on Amazon in French. But not that I'm any good at French, but there you go.
I like that. Have you got any conferences coming up or anywhere you're talking in the future?
Not at the moment now. I've just been actually asked to speak for the Buxton Freedom Group, and it's about UFOs. Right. But they've had some wonderful speakers. They've even had people like David Icke has been speaking to them. So it's
my God!
Yeah,
really?
It's like, I'm on hallowed ground here. I better be good. Better practice.
I like it. Yeah, but that's great. But a group like that gets people like that.
Yeah. Amazing.
It proves you're up there with the best.
Well, I won't go that far, but I'm flattered, Bob.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you're in Cyprus. Beautiful weather.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fabulous, Bob. I recommend it to anybody.
I bet you would as well. Enjoy yourself
Thank you. We will.
and you take care.
Bob, thank you for having me on anytime. It's been lovely.
Oh, well, anytime. Yeah, I know you're always a great guest to have on the show anyway.
Thank you. Thank you.